The line in the stars, the ultimatum arrives. The communication array on Lunar Station crackled to life at 0800 hours. Terran Standard Time. Captain Alina Rodriguez, commander of the Terran Defense Forces Outer Rim Patrol, watched as her communications officer turned pale while listening to the incoming transmission. The message was unlike anything humanity had received in decades. "Captain," Lieutenant Sarah Chen whispered, removing her headset with shaking hands. "It's from the Zephyrian Empire. They're demanding immediate audience with Earth's leadership." Alina had heard stories about the Zephyrians from her grandfather, who had been one of the first humans to encounter them 40 years ago. Back then, humanity was still confined to their own solar system, barely managing to establish colonies on Mars and the outer moons. The Zephyrians were already masters of 1,000 worlds. Their crystal ships capable of crossing the galaxy in mere weeks. The holographic display flickered, revealing the imposing figure of High Commander Vextar, his crystalline exoskeleton, gleaming under alien lights, his multiple eyes fixed directly on the camera, and when he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "Primitive humans of Terra," Vextar began, his translated words dripping with contempt. "For 40 cycles, we have allowed your species to exist in this insignificant corner of the galaxy. We have ignored your pathetic expansion to nearby worlds. This tolerance ends now." Alina felt her jaw clench. She had spent 15 years defending humanity's colonies from raiders and pirates, but this was different. This was a threat from a civilization that could end human existence with a thought. "The Zephyrian Empire requires immediate passage through your system," Vextar continued. "Our warfleets must traverse soul space to reach the Andromedan rebels who dare challenge our rule. You will disable all defensive platforms and withdraw your ships. Any resistance will result in your species' complete extinction." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Alina looked around at her crew, seeing the same mixture of fear and anger she felt burning in her own chest. For 40 years, humanity had lived under the shadow of the Zephyrian Empire, always careful not to provoke their attention. Now that attention had arrived, and it came with demands that no free species should ever accept. Earth's hidden strength, 3 days later. Alina stood in the war room beneath Geneva, surrounded by Earth's most brilliant minds and military leaders. President Maria Santos sat at the head of the table, her weathered face showing no trace of the fear that had gripped the planet since Vextar's ultimatum. "Report." "Dr. Hassan," the president ordered Dr. Amara Hassan, director of classified research, activated a holographic display that showed technical schematics Alina had never seen before. "Project Prometheus has been operational for 8 years, Hassan explained. "We've been preparing for this day since we first encountered the Zephyrians." Alina leaned forward, studying the complex diagrams. "What exactly am I looking at?" "Quantum tunnel drives," Hassan replied with a slight smile. "We've been reverse engineering crashed alien technology, combining it with theoretical physics that the Empire considers impossible, while they've been busy conquering the galaxy with their crystal ships. We've been developing something they've never encountered." Admiral Jackson Stone, the grizzled leader of Earth's space forces, stood up from his chair. "Captain Rodriguez, how familiar are you with the Zephyrian standard battle tactics? They rely on overwhelming firepower and energy shields." Alina responded immediately. "Their crystal ships can absorb massive amounts of damage, and their plasma weapons can destroy anything we've built. They've never lost a major battle. They've never fought humans," President Santos interjected. Dr. Hassan, show her the rest. The holographic display changed, revealing something that made Elena's breath catch. Hidden throughout the asteroid belt were massive installations disguised as mining operations. Each one bristled with weapons she didn't recognize, connected by a network of quantum communication relays. We call it the Terran Defense Grid, Hassan explained. Every mining station in the belt is actually a fortress. We've been building them for years, powered by fusion reactors and armed with kinetic bombardment systems that can punch through any known shielding. Elena stared at the display, her mind racing. The Empire has no idea these exist. None whatsoever. Admiral Stone confirmed. To them, we're still the same primitive species they first encountered. They see our public space program and assume that's all we're capable of. They have no idea we've been preparing for war. The response the next morning, Elena found herself aboard the TSS Defiance, humanity's newest battleship, as it transmitted Earth's response to the Zephyrian ultimatum. The ship hung in space between Earth and Mars, its sleek hull reflecting sunlight while advanced sensors tracked the approaching Empire scout fleet. President Santos had chosen to deliver the message personally, her image being broadcast not just to the Zephyrians, but to every human colony in the system. Elena watched from the bridge as her leader spoke with calm determination. High Commander Vexter, President Santos began, humanity has received your demands. After careful consideration by the Terran Defense Council and the representatives of all human colonies, our response is simple: no. Elena could almost imagine the shock on alien faces across the galaxy. No species had ever refused a direct order from the Zephyrian Empire. Furthermore, Santos continued, as of this moment, the Sol system is declared off-limits to all Zephyrian vessels. Any Empire ship found within our borders will be considered an act of war and dealt with accordingly. We are no longer the species you first encountered 40 years ago. We are humanity, and we bow to no one. The transmission ended, and Elena felt the weight of history settling on her shoulders. In less than 2 minutes, President Santos had declared independence not just for Earth, but for the entire human race. There would be no going back now. First blood. The Zephyrian response came within hours. A squadron of 12 crystal ships materialized at the edge of the solar system, their angular hulls glowing with contained energy. Elena watched from the Defiance's bridge as they began moving toward Earth, ignoring all attempts at communication. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Chen, "the lead ship is charging weapons. They're targeting our outer defense satellites." Elena opened a channel to Admiral Stone aboard the flagship Prometheus. "Admiral, the Empire ships are moving to attack position. Your orders." Stone's voice came back steady and cold. "Captain Rodriguez, you are authorized to defend human space by any means necessary. Show them what we've learned." Elena turned to her weapons officer. "Target the lead crystal ship. Load kinetic penetrator rounds. Let's see how their shields handle solid projectile at 90% light speed." The Defiance's main gun was a magnetic acceleration cannon, capable of launching tungsten rods at relativistic speeds. It was based on Empire technology, but improved, with human engineering and powered by fusion reactors that the Zephyrians didn't know humans possessed. "Target acquired," reported the weapons officer, firing. The tungsten rod crossed space in milliseconds, striking the lead Zephyrian ship's energy shield. For a moment, the shield held, glowing brighter as it tried to dissipate the kinetic energy. Then physics took over. The rod punched through the crystalline armor like it was made of glass. tearing through the ship's core before exploding out the other side. The massive Zephyrian vessel, built to survive the weapons of a dozen conquered species, came apart in a brilliant flash of light and debris. Its escort ships scattered, broadcasting what Alina could only assume were calls for reinforcement. "First blood to humanity," Admiral Stone announced over the fleet communication system. "All ships, prepare for full-scale engagement. The Empire knows we're not defenseless anymore." The secret reveal days, alarms blared throughout the solar system and human ships moved to battle stations. Alina received a priority transmission from Dr. Hassan. The scientist's face appeared on her personal screen, excitement barely contained in her voice. "Captain, we're detecting massive quantum distortions at the system's edge. The Empire is bringing everything they have. Our sensors are reading at least 300 ships, including their Fortress-class dreadnoughts." Alina felt her stomach drop. 300 ships was enough to sterilize every planet in human space. "Doctor, do we have enough firepower to stop them?" Hassan smiled, and for the first time since the crisis began, Alina saw hope in her eyes. "Captain, I need to tell you something that's been classified until this moment. Project Prometheus wasn't just about building weapons. We've been in contact with other species for the past 5 years. Species that hate the Empire as much as we do." The display on Elena's screen changed, showing star charts marked with locations throughout the galaxy. The Karathi Republic has been fighting a guerrilla war against the Empire for decades. The Nexian free traders have been smuggling weapons and supplies to resistance movements on occupied worlds. Even some of the Empire's own client species are ready to rebel. Alina stared at the information flooding her screen. "You're telling me we're not alone in this? Humanity was chosen to fire the first shot because we're the only species the Empire underestimated completely. They think we're primitive, isolated, and weak. They have no idea we've been building alliances for years, preparing for this exact moment." As Alina processed this revelation, proximity alarms began sounding throughout the ship. The Zephyrian battle fleet had arrived at the edge of human space, their crystal ships forming attack formations that had conquered 1,000 worlds. But for the first time in their long history of domination, they were facing an enemy that had been preparing specifically to fight them. "All human vessels," came Admiral Stone's voice over the fleet communication system. "This is not just Earth's fight anymore. Today we stand not just for humanity, but for every species that dreams of freedom. Today we prove that no empire, no matter how powerful, can enslave the hearts of free beings. All ships, battle stations." Alina looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. They were scared, but they were also determined. They knew the odds were against them, but they also knew they were fighting for something more important than their own lives. They were fighting for the right of every intelligent species to choose its own destiny. The war for galactic freedom was about to begin, and humanity would lead the charge. When giants fall, the fleet of liberation 2 weeks after the first battle. Alina found herself commanding not just human ships, but vessels from a dozen different species. The bridge of the renamed TSS Liberation buzzed with activity as representatives from the Karathi Republic, the Nexian free traders, and even defectors from the Empire's own client species worked alongside human crew members. Commander Zephyr, a former Zephyrian military officer who had refused orders to massacre civilians on a mining world, stood beside Alina as they watched the tactical display. His crystalline features were scarred from battles fought in the name of freedom rather than conquest. "The Empire is mobilizing everything," Zektar reported, his translated voice heavy with concern. 3,000 ships from across the galaxy are converging on human space. High Commander Vextar has declared this a priority conflict. They cannot allow the rebellion to spread. Alina nodded grimly. In just 2 weeks, the spark of human defiance had ignited fires across the galaxy. 12 different species had declared independence from Zephyrian rule. Mining worlds were in open revolt. Even some of the Empire's core systems were reporting unrest among their enslaved populations. Status report from all Allied fleets. Alina ordered Lieutenant Chen, now serving as liaison officer for the Mixed Fleet, activated the communication array. The Karathi battle group reports, ready. 200 ships armed with their quantum disruptor technology. The Nexian trading fleet has been converted to carry kinetic bombardment systems based on our designs. And Captain Rodriguez, we have confirmation that 3 more species have joined the alliance. Alina smiled despite the desperate situation. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled through fear and isolation, keeping conquered species from communicating with each other. They never imagined that their subjects might work together if given the chance. Discovery of the hidden truth. Hassan's voice crackled over the ship's intercom from her mobile laboratory. Captain, I need you to see something immediately. We've been analyzing data from the captured Empire ships, and what we've found changes everything. Alina made her way to the converted cargo bay that now served as the fleet's research center. The sight that greeted her was both fascinating and horrifying. Pieces of Zephyrian technology were scattered across examination tables, while human and alien scientists worked together to understand their construction. Look at this, Hassan said, indicating a partially disassembled crystal ship drive core. The Empire's technology isn't advanced at all. It's ancient. Some of these designs are over 5,000 years old. Alina stared at the alien machinery. I don't understand. How have they maintained their dominance with outdated technology? Because they never needed to improve, explained Dr. Veltar, a Nexian scientist whose people had been enslaved for centuries. The Empire conquered the galaxy when most species were still developing spaceflight. They've been using the same weapons, the same ships, the same tactics for millennia, because no one has ever effectively fought back. Hassan activated a holographic display showing the internal structure of a Zephyrian battleship. They're powerful, but they're also predictable. Every ship class follows the same design principles. Every weapon system operates on the same frequency ranges. They've become so confident in their superiority that they stopped innovating entirely. Alina felt a surge of hope. What does this mean for our chances? It means we're not fighting gods, Hassan replied. We're fighting bullies who've gotten lazy. And bullies can be beaten if you hit them where they don't expect it. The underground network 3 days later, Alina received a transmission that made her blood run cold and her heart soar at the same time. The message came from Kepler-438b, one of humanity's earliest colony worlds that had been abandoned when the Zephyrians first made contact. This is Sarah Mitchell, leader of the Hidden Colony Resistance Cell. The voice said over a heavily encrypted channel, We've been in hiding for 37 years, but we're ready to fight. Alina stared at the communication console in disbelief. Sarah Mitchell, this is Captain Rodriguez of the Terran Liberation Fleet. How many of you are there? 43,000 humans across 17 hidden colonies, Sarah replied. When the Empire first arrived, some of us saw what was coming. We went underground, literally in some cases. We've been building, preparing, and waiting for someone to start the fight. The revelation sent shockwaves through the human fleet. For nearly 4 decades, thousands of humans had been living in secret, developing their own technology and maintaining their own civilization away from Empire oversight. They had fusion reactors, manufacturing facilities, and, most importantly, detailed intelligence about Empire operations throughout human space. Sarah, what can you tell us about Empire activities in the outer colonies? Alina asked. They've been using human prisoners as slave labor in their mining operations. Scientists, engineers, doctors, anyone with skills they need. We estimate there are over 200,000 humans in work camps across the galaxy. But Captain, there's something else. The Empire has been experimenting on humans, trying to understand what makes us different from their other subjects. Alina felt rage building in her chest. What kind of experiments? They can't understand why humans keep trying to escape and rebel, even under the worst conditions. Other species eventually break and accept their fate, but humans don't. They've been studying us like laboratory animals, trying to find a way to make us more compliant. The trap is sprung. The Empire's main battle fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system exactly when human intelligence predicted it would. Alina watched from the Liberation's bridge as 3,000 crystal ships emerged from quantum tunnel space, their hulls glowing with barely contained power. High Commander Vextar's image appeared on every screen in the human fleet, his multiple eyes burning with fury. Humans and rebels, you have brought destruction upon yourselves. The Empire's patience is exhausted. Surrender now, and your deaths will be swift. Alina opened a response channel that would broadcast to every ship in both fleets. High Commander Vextar, this is Captain Rodriguez of the Free Human Fleet. We have a message for the Empire. She paused, looking around at her mixed crew of humans, Karathi, Nexians, and former Empire slaves who had chosen freedom over servitude. The message is simple. We will never surrender, we will never bow, and we will never stop fighting for the right of every intelligent being to choose their own destiny. Vextar's image flickered with what Alina had learned to recognize as Zephyrian laughter. Foolish primitives. You face the combined might of 3,000 systems. Your small alliance cannot hope to match our power. You're right, Alina admitted. We can't match your numbers, but we don't have to. At her signal, the hidden colonies throughout human space activated systems they had been building for decades. Massive quantum communication arrays came online, broadcasting a single message to every enslaved world in the Empire's territory, the coordinates for weapons, caches, rebellion plans, and most importantly, proof that the Empire could be defeated. You see, High Commander, Alina continued, while you've been focused on us, we've been talking to your subjects. Every mining world, every factory planet, every slave colony knows what happened here. They know you can be beaten. The tactical display on the Liberation's bridge began lighting up with new contacts. Rebellion fleets emerged from hiding throughout the galaxy. Species that had been enslaved for centuries launched coordinated attacks on Empire installations. The galaxy-spanning network of oppression that the Zephyrians had built over millennia began to collapse in a matter of hours. The final battle, the Battle of Sol, lasted 18 hours and changed the course of galactic history. The Empire's 3,000 ships found themselves fighting not just the Human Alliance fleet, but spontaneous rebellions on dozens of worlds across their territory. Supply lines were cut. Communication networks were sabotaged. Client species that had served the Empire for centuries turned their weapons on their former masters. Alina watched from the Liberation's bridge as the tide of battle shifted. The Empire's superior numbers meant nothing when they had to divide their attention across a galaxy in revolt. Their ancient tactics proved ineffective against opponents who had studied their weaknesses for years. "Captain," reported Commander Zektar, "the Empire fleet is beginning to withdraw. They're receiving distress calls from across their territory." Alina opened a final communication channel to the retreating Zephyrian ships. "Hi, Commander Vextar. Before you go, I want you to understand something. This war didn't start because humanity wanted to conquer anyone. It started because we refused to be conquered. Every species in this galaxy has the same right to freedom that we claimed for ourselves." Vextar's image appeared one last time, his crystalline features showing something Alina had never seen in a Zephyrian before. "Uncertainty. This is not over human. The Empire has ruled for 5,000 years. It will not fall to a rebellion of primitives and slaves." "Maybe not," Alina acknowledged, "but it will fall to free beings who refuse to accept that might makes right. The age of the Empire is ending, High Commander. The age of freedom has begun." As the last Zephyrian ships disappeared into quantum tunnel space, Alina looked around at her crew. They had done something that no one in the galaxy thought possible. They had stood up to the Zephyrian Empire and won. More importantly, they had proven that freedom was worth fighting for, and that no oppressor, no matter how powerful, could defeat the united will of free beings. The war was far from over. The Empire would regroup, adapt, and return with new tactics and strategies. But the galaxy would never be the same. The spark that began with humanity's refusal to bow had become a fire that would burn across the stars until every thinking being had the right to choose their own path. In the depths of space, aboard ships crewed by a dozen different species, the message went out on every frequency. Freedom was not just a human dream, but the birthright of every intelligent being in the universe. And no empire, no matter how ancient or powerful, could take that away. Alina Rodriguez, once a simple patrol captain, now found herself at the center of a galactic revolution. The girl who had grown up hearing stories of humanity's first contact with aliens had become the woman who helped free the galaxy from its oldest oppressor. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in millennia, it belonged to the free, asterisk.